Thank you for inviting me. This presentation is about why 2023 is a digital pivot point. And I want to thank Navajo, Mark, for inviting me to meet with GMDC, which led to this presentation. So Retail Tomorrow is all about insight, and my company, Iterate AI, is similar. We're about discovery and development. Some people think of us as a think tank and a do tank. And we're also about evaluation cloud and execution cloud. And you'll see why that is as I talk through this, all these topics. But we found that in a lot of companies, the discovery, the thinking, the evaluation, that's all, I don't want to call it easy, but it's more available to every company than the development side and execution side of things. So we've tried to make, really concentrate on a lot of the execution. Just a little on my company. This is where I learn a lot about what I'm going to talk to you about today. We've had 283% growth over the past years. We operate basically, and we've got 60 employees as of today. Over 70% of them are technical. We raised money way early, about $3 million, mainly from angels and one large organization that was a partner that wanted to be an investor. That was Ulta Beauty. We favor creativity over cash. We don't like constraining the way based on money that is invested in us, and that's the way we're built. So again, we build with our brains, not with capital. And we have built this company, my company, without any sales or marketing staff. So everything has pretty much come through word of mouth and one customer introducing us to another. This is the way our out. We've got an evaluation cloud and execution cloud, like I said before, and then there are products in each side of this. So when we evaluate startup technologies, let's say, or trends, that's all done in the Signals platform. And we do a lot of solution curation. So we grade startups for companies like Ulta Beauty or Jockey, the underwear company, CPG companies we do that for. But what we found early on was even if you came up with good ideas, it was really hard to figure out how to put them into production, and built an execution cloud. But we're an innovation platform basically, and innovation meaning going all the way from the thinking to the execution and deployment of technologies. This is what our org chart looks like. We've got a large staff of intelligence engineers, and this isn't made up. It's not like people just calling themselves that. One of our guys has a big PhD in what we call swarm computing, which is a combination of IoT, AI plus big data, where his PhD thesis was done on figuring out how to have a car make decisions, an autonomous car make decisions by accessing computing power that is closer to the car than the cloud, like an Amazon cloud or Google, be operating off people's phones, which is closer to the car itself. Then we have a number of engineers like that, the AI type technologies. And then we have a curation team, which tends to be a combination of business technology, where we're vetting startups all the time to make sure they're telling the truth. We also have large organizations, but there's a real ease today of being able to say you do one thing, but you don't really do it, at least to the extent of an expert. So our curation team does that. We've built a technology that is what we call a horizontal low-code platform. And the reason we call it horizontal is because it's used by a wide variety of industries. There's a lot of retail usage, a lot of a little bit of DTC usage, but we work in many spaces, from automotive all the way over to the military, from insurance down to over to energy. And in each of these cases, companies use the AI that's built into our platform. So we call that a horizontal AI, and we'll explain that more later. These are some of the companies that use us to address key challenges, be AI-centric, to operate in a modular format, always operating toward measurable KPIs. and always looking to provide meaningful upside. But these are companies like Circle K or which operates in the convenience store and fuel, the gas pump categories, to Driven Brands, which owns like Maaco, Meineke, Take 5 oil change centers, lots of car washes, all the way to Pampered Chef, which is a DTC direct-to-consumer company, one that lives and dies from social commerce. Really cool there. But each of these companies is operating with AI right now, coming out of our platform. And again, the reason I'm saying this is I'm going to expose you, hopefully, to a lot of thinking around these new technologies that are going to apply to 2023. This is what a low-code platform looks like. This is ours, actually. It's called Interplay, part of Iterate. And you can see it's a drag and drop technology. On the left-hand side, there are over 450 pre-built containers of reusable code. And a bunch of those connect into enterprise environments like Oracle, Salesforce, SAP. A number of others connect into startup technologies. There are 30 that connect built AI components. And because of that, we can build code on this low code platform about 10 to 20 times faster than what you would traditionally do. The new world is becoming cheaper, faster, and better all at the same time. It doesn't have to be pick two of the three. It can be all three in technology. And again, this is from one of our large organizations. Iterate helps members navigate members of what we call clients, the ambiguous innovation space through deep subject matter expertise, startup curations, and fast to market prototyping. Together, we're solving our customers and long-term problems, everything from enabling e-commerce to unlocking easy, differentiated experience. We're solving problems that have never been solved before with advanced technologies like AI, deep learning, and biometrics. So that's the head of digital innovation for a global $50 billion, more than $50 billion global retailer. And that kind of gives you an idea of the way they look at us. So let's look at 2023. IDC, the organization that does a lot of analysis on the future and technologies, says that the digital first enterprise will be half of the economy by 2023. Are you ready? So what's changed? Big picture, economy is moving from conceptual to aspirational to operational, and it will be all by the year 2023. This means that organizations are going to need to think about themselves as platforms, as ecosystems. They're going to need to be an ecosystem. You need to open up, partner up, and use third parties. You also need to start thinking modularly and with an agile organization, one that taps into low-code development and becomes a lot more experimental with your outputs. You need to be able to harness data because there's going to be, as you'll see here soon, there's going to be more data available by far, real soon, than ever before. And that data needs to be used to create simple one-to-one engagement tools that employees can use on a day-to-day basis. By 2025, the average person is going to interact with Connected to 4,800 times per day. That's every 18 seconds. And this is predictions that were made before by IDC before the year. Before 30% of actions will be in real time, and smart will become the new normal. But the year is going to be 2023, not 2025. And this is partly all these technologies are coming together. Number one there, these are 10 technologies, 10 concepts, basically. The first one is expanding trust. And a lot of that will happen around blockchain. There's going to be a new UI, which is going to be centered on artificial intelligence. And that is coming live now. They're going to be hyper agile apps, which means low-code software development. There's going to be a lot of edge computing. The economy is going to be far more digitized. This is an innovation explosion. And developers that are accessing low-code tools that are a new type of developer that we've seen before. The one thing that isn't mentioned here on this chart that was put together by IDC is that 5G is gonna take this to a whole nother level as well. And we'll talk about 5G as part of this presentation. So again, things are becoming cheaper, faster, better. The data-driven world will be always on, always tracking, always listening, and always watching. And as a result, it'll be always learning. And one of the reasons this is happening is because chips that can think and chips that have are gonna be are so small that you can get at least 54 of them onto a penny. This is a real chip that people are using today. Amazon invested in this company. And again, there are 54 of these chips laid on a penny here. They'll fit in almost consumer products. So consumer products are getting brains and memories. There's also, what's happening today is there's this plummeting cost of storage of data. There are the costs of sensors like accelerometers, microphones, those are all dropping. Micro electromechanical systems or MEMS, all of these things are dropping in costs. And what we're looking at here is what happened after the advent of the first iPhone, which happened in around 2007. You know, you can see that all the costs of these little sensors that go into an iPhone are falling. The cost of starting a digital company is falling dramatically too. I started a company called ebags.com back in the late 90s. Back then, it cost about $5 million to start a company because you had to buy all the servers at $50,000 each. You had to hire a developer, one of them, had to be able to build code from scratch. You had to store data, and it was about $10,000 to store a gig of data back then. So you had to raise money. Since then, we've had open source code come on the market. We've had cloud computing start. And this has actually helped the founders of companies create companies at a lot lower costs, especially if software developers are building these companies today. It costs less than $5,000 to start a company, provided you have a developer founder. And the cost of storing a gig of data is about a penny. So it's a 99% reduction in cost. And because of that, you've had this explosion in startups, the proliferation of startups. And that's because the barriers to entry to starting a company have gone down a lot. The barrier of entry to starting a company is no longer capital, it's really brains. And this is a slide lots of people have seen, I think. But Scott Brinker put it together back in 2011. There were 150 startups that were built as marketing technologies, digital technologies. And now there are over 1,000 of those available for all of us to use. At the same time, as startups are exploding, Amazon and companies like Amazon are investing tons of money in R&D. This is a picture of Amazon's R&D spend. They invested $38 million last year on R&D. And if you just think about that in terms of what that is, the R&D spend at Amazon is double Starbucks, more than double McDonald's revenues. If you compare that to DSW, the shoe store, their revenues are $2 to $3 billion. So it's by magnitudes greater than that. So this R&D spend is aimed at changing and digitizing consumer behavior to a large extent. And Amazon's the biggest spender, but there are also a lot of other big spenders, including Google, Apple, Facebook. The whole world is doing the same thing as Amazon. And even though it's not quite as large, massive, $27 billion from Google, 19 billion from Apple. The Chinese companies are doing a lot too, just not quite to the extent, but still Alibaba spent $8 billion last year on R&D. So again, all of this spend, all the startups, all the R&D being spent by Amazon and Google, et cetera, is accelerating this change in the landscape of new digital technologies. And what's happening too is the companies are creating ecosystems. And so I don't look at Amazon so much, I look at it more as an ecosystem. It's all about sharing data and sharing data from business to business. We all think of Amazon today as a retailer. And primarily an online retailer. And a year ago, it had $365 billion in gross merchandise flowing through its online business. They have this big third-party marketplace business that, is a huge piece of this, but the revenues aren't accounted for at the GMV level. So it's kind of, the reported revenues deflated from Amazon, but way more than that retail online. It's the physical stores. They have over 570 of them. Whole Foods and this new presented by Amazon concept. They've got 21 bookstores out there. But then beyond that, they've got big businesses like East, which is a $1.5 billion business through Twitch. There's Amazon Advertising, which is a $20 billion business. There's the entertainment business where they invest $7 billion on content alone. They have 400 private label brands, a lot of private label IoT devices like Ring and like Echo and Blink. And then they've got content and community like Goodreads and IMBD. They've got their fulfillment business and healthcare business, which could still be create dramatic changes in our world. And then they've got a finance business. And to support all that, running on AWS, which is a $40 billion business on its own. And within iOS, they have divisions like IoT divisions, blockchain divisions, AI divisions, and then a big R&D investment supporting this. And then today we bought Zoox, which is an autonomous car company, and MGM, the studio. And so it continues to grow. This ecosystem does. It continues to move into digitized worlds, but non-digitized worlds that are going to become more and more digital. The biggest businesses in the world today are platforms. The 8 highest value firms in the world today are platforms. And Apple, this is about a year ago, it was valued at about $2 trillion. Amazon was 1.8 trillion, Microsoft 1.7. Then you went down to 2 Chinese companies at 800 billion, Tesla at 400. All these companies are a lot bigger in a market cap in the way that investors view these companies than Target or Marriott or Ford. Ford is at like $40 billion. United Airlines, even pre-COVID, it barely registers on this chart. So this gives you an idea of how important these platforms and ecosystems. We look at kind of 3 different buckets. One is consumers are going to get a lot of access to new technologies that will help them take control of their lives. Firms can add productivity tools too that are new. And if you can harness both those things, you have to prepare your firm, have organization readiness to capture the opportunities in both of these areas. And in our view, it's not even capturing opportunities, it's also defensive. If you don't capture these opportunities, you could be viewed as archaic. Your company could rather quickly. So these are technologies that are going to change rapidly. And in 2021, 4G, AI, augmented reality, virtual reality, blockchain, voice, and Internet of Things were all out there, but they aren't really integrated too well yet. This is, the pre-COVID world. There were point solutions and access. But what's happening is that by 2023, all these technologies are going to start intertwining. And there's going to be this one technology that changes quite dramatically from 4G. The 4G is going to become 5G, and there will be 1.1 billion 5G devices used by consumers in 2023. And the 5G is going to help all these technologies combine and start working together. And they're going to be, and each of these technologies too are going to be, the spending on them is going to be huge. So AI and augmented reality, virtual reality, those are all going to be $100 billion businesses by 2023. And so they are pretty mature. The IoT will be $1 trillion business by 2023. So let's look at 5G by itself. In perspective, 4G is like a one-lane dirt road, and 5G is more like a multi-lane, 2-way highway. And that's the way to think of them. Your 5G will start tracking your behaviors, your habits, your health, your fitness. It'll do it in commercial and manufacturing environments. It'll know where you eat, breathe, work, sleep, where you drive, who your family and friends are. It'll know your age. I don't mean it'll know it. It'll be passing around all these different behaviors through its networks. It'll know your social pictures, your texts. It'll know what you click on, what you read, your political views, travel, purchases, etc. And because of that, it's not just a business concern going forward. It's going to be a political concern. And so if you look at the Chinese government, they aim to own the networks. They aim to own 5G globally. They have the same feelings around blockchain, but let's look at 5G right now. This is from the Atlantic. Article was written about a year ago. It says the world telecom equipment manufacturers, Huawei and ZTE, are Chinese companies with murky ownerships for close ties to China's government. The US NSA fears that Huawei's equipment could allow Beijing to sensitive personal or corporate data, or concealed kill switches could cripple Western telecom systems during a war. This could endow China with geopolitical leverage at all times. So again, the Chinese government is all over 5G, and tons of money is pouring into it through organizations that, companies that operate in. And this shows the growth of what's expected with 5G. This chart says that in 2021, the year we're in now, we will have about 100 million 5G devices deployed. And you can see the orange is here in the US, the red is in the EU. You can see they aren't nearly as mature as Asia. But what's important is that by the year 2023, you can see there's going to be an explosion. And not only will more consumers be holding on to these devices, using them as their phones, the networks themselves will be a lot more advanced, and I'll show you that in 1 second. But there will be 1 billion subscriptions in place by the year 2023. Let's see how that differs from the old phone networks. 1G was just voice, added texting. Wi-Fi came in around the 2G period, and there were about 50 connected devices. You could get to one access point. Then we had 3G that enabled stuff like social, and it allowed people to start streaming some music through their phones. Then we got 4G and 4G LTE. And at this point, you could connect 1,000 devices per access point. And this was when, and also the speeds of data came in about 10 times faster. And this enabled the mobile economy, where this is where Uber and Lyft came in. This is where Airbnb became important. You could start streaming phones, and shopping started to happen on the phones. But now we're headed to this world of 5G. And 5G allows people to have 1 million, not people, but 1 million connected devices per access area. That's 1,000 times more, it'll have 1,000 times more bandwidth. Speeds of data flow will be 10 to 100 times faster. And virtually everything can be connected in the new world through these 5G networks. Beyond battery lives in these phones are expected to increase a lot, and also devices that operate through 5G. So there'll be a 90% reduction in network energy usage. Again, extreme improvement in data movement with the rollout of 5G. To put this in practical terms, what this means too is a Guardians of the Galaxy that's about 2 hours long. Back in the year 2000 or so, it would take 26 hours to download that movie onto your phone. 6 minutes is what it would take on a 4G network, a decade ago. In the 2020s, where we're headed now, is that same movie will be downloaded in a little over 3 seconds. Note this is that an average human responds to a visual stimulus in about 1/4 of a second. But an AI operating within a car will react 250 times faster than a human. To put this in another perspective, if you're driving 60 miles on the road, it'll take you about 33 yards. That's how far you'll travel before you'll be able to get your foot on the brakes. But a car that operates with AI on a 5G network will respond in a little less than one, or a little bit more than 1 inch. 5G networks look different than the 5G networks too. The 5G networks they operate on what we call massively distributed small cells. So there are a lot of little nodes that connect to 5G devices in what used to be a 4G landscape. This is what the 5G towers look like, and they're also embedded in different areas like in the ground and that kind of thing, different deployment types. But you can see one on the left in Seattle on a light post. There's one in Denver here it's not a light post, it's just more of a tower. And then, it kind of looks messy. But anyway, back in 2018, cell permit requests started overwhelming localities. And they got a lot of complaints around the aesthetics. So they've been trying to improve those recently. Now let's talk about IoT, because we're going to start talking about how all this stuff will intertwine, and become empowered through the 5G networks. There will be 43 billion devices connected by the year 2023 that, IoT devices, and many of them will be 5G enabled. And as Jen Elsevier talks here in Inc. magazine, she says 5G will fundamentally change everything you know about mobile farms to phones. And this is the next generation of broadband. And again, it'll touch everything from flying devices to manufacturing to ATMs to fertilizer sensors, robotic remote surgeries, medicine dispensers, eyeglasses, street cams, refrigerators, dog collars, farm tractors, trucks and trailers. And a lot of these products will get over-the-air service upgrades, maintenance upgrades. So the servicing of these products will change. The other thing is, because they're always connected, you start monitoring customer journey. It's not about transactions. Products will become about risks to the IT teams is this. There will be rogue wireless company, CTOs and CIOs are going to have to worry about attacks coming in from third parties, hackers, coming in through devices that no longer sit in a company's mainframe or whatever, the old-fashioned types of computer systems. Computer networks owned and operated, or at least accessed by companies, will live in people's homes and on their wrists and on their bodies. And these are all areas that could become hacker opportunities that we need to guard against. Let's talk about edge computing, because that is IoT to some extent. The IDC predicts that the company cloud deployments will include edge computing by the year 2022, and 25% of endpoint devices and systems will execute AI algorithms. So an endpoint device is something like a shoe that's enabled with one of those little chips that we saw before, clothing, or a Fitbit device, or an Apple Watch. Those are endpoint devices. They could even be cameras that are sitting in stores. So anyway, it will operate on the edge. And Gartner has a similar prediction. By 2023, they say that over 50% of new infrastructure deployed will be at the edges, at the company. And this is something that we worked on, my company, Iterate. It's for Circle K, and they are actually allowing a consumer to come into a gas pump, and we do of the car and the license plate, and from that we're able to identify the consumer that drives in, and then from that we're identify where they park. That'll turn on the pump and allow the person to start pumping the gas without bringing out their credit card, because it actually turns the phone that they're carrying in their car or in their pocket into the credit card. And then they're able to drive away without and get the receipt as they drive out of the Circle K. This is operating in over 300 stores in Norway and Sweden right now successfully. And this is using a combination of computer vision, which is AI, and all the processing is in these edge servers on the edge in the gas stations themselves. And that's pay by plate. And AI is getting more advanced. So the AI that we've built, where it's not square AI or rectangular AI that can only recognize shapes in a certain symmetry, we can actually create quite complex geometries that are drawn in every individual location to identify the types of objects to read in a specific location. So location is different, geometries are different, and it can also recognize and identify things in real time, objects in real time as the Amazon, as you know, they're full of this. They've got cameras and sensors in all their Amazon Go locations. They've gone from have a 10,000 or two, I think two even, 10,400 square feet locations that are like the size of a Trader Joe's, and make it easy for people to shop in a store that has no employees. I think in March 2021, they had 27 of these stores ready, but and operating. But I think what's important here is that 5G again makes all of this more powerful and more real time, and allows you to collect more data. And this is one of our members again, Circle K, Couche-Tard, up in Montreal, where they operate one of these touchless stores up in Montreal, Canada, in McGill University. They use the low-code platform you see there on the right to manage all the data that's flowing through that floor or store, excuse me. And of course, all that gets processed with AI. And AI will be a $100 billion business by the year 2023. And a lot of it will be processed at the edge. Talked about over 25% of edge deployments will include like this, that can think, that have memories. This chip is built by Cintia. There are various estimates for what these chips cost. One of them done here by Deloitte says that the Samsung chips that go in their phones cost about $350.50 each. Apple's cost a little over $5, and Huawei's out of China are just under $1.50 each. So think about that. These cost very little. And some of them need other types of processing capabilities built around them. But the point is that the AI portion of this costs very little, and they're tiny, so they really can get put into consumer products going forward. And remember too, that the cost sizes will continue to decline. The training of these chips and the training of the AI, I should say, has also been changing. Back the year 2017 in October, it took a little over 10 days and 4 hours to train an AI to accurately identify images, 1,000 different types of objects in pictures. Fast May 2019, and training the AI to do that same as 1,000 different types of objects could have happened in 2 minutes and 43 seconds. And again, that continues to get faster too, the ability to train the AI a lot faster. So smarter technologies, smarter consumers. And this is an example. There's an app out there called Think Dirty. And what it allows you to do is scan an object in a store, like a piece of a package of lipstick, or in this case, I guess lip gloss. And what it will then do is look at all the ingredients. It's got that stored in its database, and be able to bring up the ingredients and tell you whether or not some of the ingredients will harm your skin, harm the environment, or be really good for your skin or good for you. And you can download this app off the Apple Store or the Android and use it, and then get all these ranking, or get it to tell you what types of products you're using. And this has been rated, when I took the screenshot, it was rated 9,000 times on the Apple Store. So it's not by a few people, this is a lot of people. And it's a 4.8 rating. And it is very hard to find apps that have that strong a rating. And we're watching about 20 companies that are doing this kind of thing out in the market today. Here's another one called Benai.ai, and it's a company out of Israel. The the phone's camera to read your biological indicators of your health. So using the camera on the phone, it can tell your heart rate variability. It'll tell you if it thinks you any kind of mental stress going on. It'll look at your oxygen saturation rates, respiration rates, and it's even trying to get to the point where it can measure your blood pressure looking at you through the camera of the phone. Here's a company out of Amsterdam that can do the same thing with medications that Think Dirty did. So it'll look at how one medication acts with another medication you're taking, or be able to tell you if you're going to have an allergic reaction to some kind of over-the-counter medicine. There are people trying to figure out how to put chips and sensors into, wristwatches, obviously, as you know, or into scanners like this one that scans your belly and will tell you the contents of your belly fat and tell you how unhealthy or healthy it is, and then give you suggestions for how to eat to improve the content of fat or tummy. This is like a pregnancy stick that you can urinate on, and it'll tell you the contents of what your diet looks like and how to improve your diet. This is a sensor that goes on your shoulder and can be used by a physical therapist or a chiropractor or a healthcare professional that could then whether or not your arm movements are changing, if they're getting better, and it monitors everything in real time, report back to your doctor in real time so that they could prescribe and help you remotely with body changes. And there are just many, many examples of companies doing these really unique things with IoT sensors running through the using AI to calculate or to figure out how to improve your life. And as they run through the 5G networks, stronger and stronger, better and better. This is an interesting company that monitors baby health by putting a sock on the baby's foot. And you can see it too on Amazon. It has really good ratings, over 5,000 ratings and 80% star. So augmented reality and VR will change too. It's going to be a $100 billion industry. And one of my favorite examples of this is eyeglasses. Amazon has the Echo Frame out there today, but remember it's operating with 4G networks and a lot of the technologies that were originally built into it weren't nearly as advanced as the next 2 years. But imagine once 5G comes live, they'll be able to flow all of Amazon's catalog into these lenses, gather Amazon reviews and stuff like that of products you're looking at in a grocery store's shelves, or if you're shopping for clothes or whatever it is you're shopping for, your eyeglasses will become a way to evaluate the products you think you're going to buy. This is going beyond Amazon here really quickly too. Facebook is planning to launch glasses in 2023. Apple is also going to launch in 2020. Google acquired a company. It was actually a company that Amazon invested in called North to relaunch their consumer glasses in the year 2023. So 2023 is the year of eyeglasses, smart eyeglasses. And some of these companies may build bone conduction into them. This is a patent that was just granted to Apple. And as this Popular Mechanics article, it said that there's a chance the hearing device using bone conduction could be with a pair of viewing glasses capable of displaying video to the user or augmenting the visual perceptions of the user, through an augmented reality type interface. And again, Apple filed for this patent. It's been granted. And I think your organization has actually seen this in action at MIT. This is kind of a better indication of what might come. Bone conduction may make smart eyeglasses, smarter and active. They'll be wearable. And what the bone conduction does is allows humans to converse in natural language with machines, with AI assistants, with service providers, people like customer service agents, without using their voice, without even opening their mouth, and without externally observable movements. The feedback to the user is given through audio via bone conduction, making the interface a closed loop, meaning no one else will be able to hear all the interactions going on between you and your glasses. It's just the vibrations moving through your bones that are activated through your thoughts that will communicate with the glasses and enter sending messages through 5G networks back into your eyeglasses to talk to you. So it'll be like speaking to yourself, but with a smart self. There are a lot of startups working on this too. This is one called Vocal Skull, and there are many more. But augmented reality goes way beyond, and virtual reality too, way just the eyeglasses. There are infrastructure being built, tools and platforms being built, many applications coming out in different industries, from gaming and entertainment to enterprise like solutions like training capabilities, to healthcare, to education. Now we'll move on to voice, which is a form of a combination of IoT and AI. And that's going to grow like crazy too. It's going to grow in areas like automotive, consumer banking, financial services, insurance, in the retail world, education, healthcare, and government. So all of this could be affected by voice interfaces instead of, the visual UX we've been dealing with in the past. Amazon believes in this. 2 years ago, they had 10,000 employees, actually almost 3 years ago now, over 10,000 employees working their voice applications made for the Echo devices and other devices that will be coming out. And people like these in general. Like if you look at the reviews of the Echo, this one that I looked at has a 4.8 review, many of them 5 stars. And this one testimonial says, I've only been using Echo for about a month, but I've already enjoyed the benefits of owning it. I'm 66 years old and marginally tech savvy. And yet, this has made a difference in my life. So think about all the ways people will be able to interact with products going forward by using their voice or by using their thoughts through bone conduction. Just another review, 84% positive, 191,000 views on this, and a huge number of positive ratings. And all these devices, these are all IoT devices owned by Amazon. They're more than these. This is just a snapshot of them, but all of these could be operated eventually with things like voice interfaces. And all of them, most of them will process AI and operate better through a 5G network. Moving on to blockchain, it'll be a $23 billion business. And what I'd like to focus on, instead of supply chain and everything that people think of blockchain as, is more of the blockchain-based digital identity. And IDC believes that by 2022, there'll be 150 million people that will have these digital identities controlled by blockchain. And this shows the growth that's expected over the next few years. And again, every one of these companies circled in orange has big blockchain initiatives underway. If you look at the patent space, you'll see that that most of the patents are happening in China. The majority, over 50%, have been applied for globally, but through Chinese companies. The number one applicant is Alibaba. Enchain Holdings, another Eastern company, is also heavily into the blockchain. But you can see there's some American companies in here too, like MasterCard and Walmart, even halfway down this slide. If you look at the maturity of this, though, by the year 2018, most of the applications, which is the big graphic or the vertical line on the right, most of the applications were still just filed for, they weren't granted. So the vast majority were just under review still by the year 2018. And now we're starting to see more and more get granted. But again, if you look on the left-hand side, the majority of the activities happening in China, with US being the number 2 applicant. Now let's look at what China is doing. President Xi, China's president, says that he's called for his nation to lead the world in blockchain technology. And one of the companies, then all these companies jump into the race. This means Baidu, which is China's Google, everyone from them to Alibaba to Tencent to JD, they've all jumped into the game, but they're playing by the rules established by China's government. So the blockchain has standards, and those standards are set by the China Internet Censorship Agency. They require entities, any entities or nodes within the blockchain to provide anyone that provides blockchain services to collect users' real names, ID, and their telephone numbers. And so all of these companies like Tencent and Alibaba that are trying to create these blockchain platforms are doing it with that of standards. And as a result, China sees the world forming centralized blockchains that are operated, in their view, hopefully by them. At the same time, we've got blockchain initiatives coming out of America, and this is one coming out of Amazon. They've got their big initiative. We were tracking this a few years ago on Amazon, and it was funny. They said they didn't have any blockchain. Then a couple of years ago, they said, hey, we're kind of interested in blockchain, but how would you use this? And they put a form up where people could send them all this. And then about, I don't know if it was a year and a half ago, they launched their own, what you see here. But what we see this forming into beyond the supply chain and other use cases we watch is that it'll create the beginning of the digital me, or start controlling it a little bit more. And think of a digital me as the opposite of the physical me is, me, John Nordmarble. I have selective memory, and I may or may not be too good at math. I've forgotten a lot since high school and college. But the difference between that and the digital me is significant. A digital me will have a lifelong memory of everything. It'll be all knowledgeable. It'll be able to do complex calculus automatically, applying deep learning techniques, and it'll be a spatial learner. And so digital me is going to start augmenting my physical me. And your digital me will be gathering data from all kinds of inputs, from sensors, what you're saying, through voice devices, through wearables, what you're thinking, through keyboard, whatever you're typing into, search engine, or through cameras as they watch you walk through your home or through stores, and through, collecting devices and stuff like that. And they'll all flow through 5G networks. And then, we've got academics working on digital identity, the future of digital identity, the self-sovereign virtual identity, which is very different than what China wants. So a lot of the Western thinking is that the blockchain is actually going to put the consumer in control of their identities. And it won't be a centralized network that you see here on the left. It'll be more of a distributed network that you see on the right, that is powered by edge computing, AI chips, and the blockchain that gives the consumer control to what data do they want to, what personal data and information they want to hand over to a company. And so because of that, Gartner says that they think by the year 2023, data asset availability will decrease by 30%. So think about that. Like, the data you have today as a company may go down because consumers start taking control of their digital identities. They may say that, this company doesn't really provide me with much service, or, there's no reason for me to give them a certain type of data, so I'm just not going to give it to them anymore. And companies may have to start paying for data from consumers, or just provide service that the consumer opts in to providing aspects of their digital identity to the company. And about this in the way that Amazon may think about it, Amazon's creating this ecosystem where they provide all these different services, from movie watching to the Echo device you have in your home, to purchasing product on the website. And if they offer enough services, they can get consumers to give them, virtually all aspects of what they do in their life, in order for Amazon to provide a better recommendation engine that is back to them. But all of us need to think in terms of how do we provide great service to consumers so that they'll give us access to their data. There are startups that are emerging to help consumers do this. This is one called Nuggets that's been available for a while. And then there are open source solutions that are doing the same thing. And I like, because it says open source infrastructure for the global personal data economy. allowing for the safe, consensual, and compliant storage, sharing, and trading of between organizations that hold it, who produce it, and organizations and platforms that are seeking it, for usage. And of course, other areas like the supply chain will benefit from the blockchain. But what Gartner sees is that the blockchain will mature around the year 2023 again, 2025-ish. But then as it goes toward 2030, the block, think about to be enhanced again. Firms are also able to access productivity tools. And so what we see there is that open source is becoming more important, as is low code software development, which will make the world of software development, the speed of that increase 10 times to 20 times, provide new types of software developers access to building technical products. Charles here from Microsoft says that 500 million new apps will be built in the next decade, from 2020 to 2025, actually. That's more apps than built in the past 40 years. And he says if that 150 million of those apps will have to be a low code tool. Forrester kind of agrees. They say that it'll be a $21 billion market by next year. Gartner says that 65% of all app development by 2024 will be done on low platforms. Gartner also says by 2023, 50% of medium and large organizations will be using low code as a strategic application platform. And so what is low code? That's the question, I guess. Amazon's jumping in too. And just in about a year ago, they launched their platform. And Gartner says the same thing, that low code is going to create this innovation explosion. It's where new tools and platforms are mature, more developers come into the game. Agile methods are used lots more often. And there will be tons of code reuse. That's what brings to the market, one of the things. So, and I'm going to show you what a low code platform is in a minute, but low code today is where we're kind of at. It's the beginning of low code. It's where non-technical professionals able to use technology in a form that doesn't require much technical skill. In other words, they're able to create technology without requiring much technical skills. So people like marketing technologists, not IT professionals, but marketing technologists will be able to write code. In the past, it was just discipline experts, IT backgrounds, formal training in technology would be able to write. Going forward, we're going to move into even completely non-technical people will be able to write code. And so this creates the democratization of technologies and the emergence of the citizen developer platforms. Again, by 2023, 80% of digitally advanced organizations will replace walled gardens or IT as an enabler model with self-service. This is what IDC says. Cloud solutions or functions as a service and low code and no code tools that are accessible by non-IT users and citizen developers. This is going to change the way companies dramatically. Look at what the old software development looked like. It was tedious software development that you see on the left. It looks like a whole language. The new low code is more like drag and drop software development, where all the code is containerized, reusable. You just drag it out onto the playing platform, it's the code, and you send lines between these code modules. Iterate My Company has a platform on many companies today, and it has 35 pre-built AI components where even people that aren't trained formally in AI can start using these AI capabilities like decision tree classifiers or deep neural network classifiers, like TensorFlow, the K-neighbors classifier, etc. There are 63 pre-built components for enterprises to where they're put into enterprise stacks or capabilities like from companies like Salesforce. And this unlocks data that's stored in silos in the enterprise today. It takes away these innovation impediments that exist today because of all these pre-built components. This is kind of what it looks like in action again, a low-code application development platform. And our experience shows that it will increase software development anywhere from by 10x to 20x. So just imagine you can build pay by plate capabilities in for gas stations, and highly scalable, even using open source capabilities to lower costs. You can do biometric payments or biometric check-ins for at stores. You can build ways to do estimate car damage and repair repair timelines and budgets through phone apps where the AI is processing it. Well, the camera is taking a picture of a problem in a car, and it's able to determine the extent of the damage, what it would cost and take to fix that damage. You can build AI chatbots. Iterate runs the low-code platform we just looked at. It runs the chatbot on Ulta Beauty. Almost half of all interactions are handled by AI on that site, and it looks like it operates with the human on the other end. And if it does require a human, there's a real seamless handoff to get the question answer going with a human. There are AI-powered product replenishment reminders operating on these platforms. This is something we built through an oil company where they could read outputs coming from a oil well, where a field technician gets a read on oil well by plugging in a device that they carry out in the field. It prints off what basically looks like a receipt from a retailer, but it's just a graph, and all these paper tickets are impossible and find later. And what we've done is built an AI that can take these kind of messy graphics, turn them into coordinates using an AI to read the graphics, and then store them on a computer system for future lookup to help optimize billing and stuff like that in the future. Done the same thing in the medical field, where we can actually give a surgeon or a cancer doctor a second opinion without changing any of the behavior on the doctor's end. All they do is drag their X-ray in storage, their normal storage container, and then the software drags that photo out to an environment where the AI can read the photo and then give a second opinion, like finding pneumonia in lungs, back to the doctor. On Jockey.com, they sell bras that are small, medium, large, extra large, and this is not normal. Women don't generally buy bras that. But this is a special bra for Jockey, but they had to fix the perception that women had of it. So we had to create an AI-built tool, or AI-enabled tool, that helps women identify questions about this bra. And this actually increased conversion rates for Jockey by over 50% when someone clicks on that side help tool and engages with this AI customer service agent. Where the AI, these low-code tools, are able to read satellite imagery from drones. This is something we worked on, pretty fascinating, and it can happen very fast. Robbery detection, we're working on for being able to identify a person who looks like they might come in and rob a store by looking for weapons, by looking for behavior, and then notifying the people in the store, security centers, potentially locking the building proactively so the person can come in the store. But this could be used for stores, for churches, for schools, and but again, all edge computing, AI, and low code. This is just looking at, what would I like my car to look like? Again, this is visualization, color estimation, running through AI tools, low code tools, AI powered beauty advisor, AI powered skin analysis, AI powered oil change capabilities where you don't need to bring out your credit card again, a little bit like the gas pump scenario where you pay with your pump. Scan and go capabilities can be run through low code and AI systems. Ingredient detection too can be done that way. This is how you would be able to identify. We create ingredient transparency. This is over in Netherlands, but it tells you, if you're going to have from this aspirin. Voice capabilities can be run through low code technologies. They could even happen in the car. And traffic counting and those types of things can be operated through edge computing or existing camera and processed with an AI. Platforms are being built with low code now. This is one that we with Pampered Chef, and it's basically a way to create communities of buying communities online that are run by individual hosts of parties to sell cooking ware products to friends, and a super cool initiative that we've been involved with. This is what it looks like online. I mean, not online, but on a phone. It includes everything from recipes to video selling, where it's all done live, and it's like a live party. Appointment setting, quizzes, and then open source is changing a lot too. There's about, by the year 2023, there'll be about 100 million open source libraries available, broken up into smaller and smaller chunks of reusable code. And this can all be imported into low code platforms. Not all of it, but parts, you got to be careful with it, but it will definitely change the world of software development. And this is even extending into biology, where these are gene editing technologies being done in the Stanford Bioengineering Lab. It's going to create a new class of developers that will be able to produce code without custom scripting. It'll expand the developer base, according to IDC, by about 30% and bring a new creative class of people into software. So you can just imagine what we've got to do now is make sure our organizations are ready for this, because power is going to small teams. It's going to the key technical individual. They can be any age, any gender, any heritage. There are things that you can't unsee. What we just saw before, this storm is coming, like it or not. The applications are profound, and this will beg many questions. Is this a potential threat to your organization? How do we address the cultural implications? Will there be a gap between the big and little companies? Will that grow? Will the small get gobbled up by the big through acquisitions? Do big companies need to get really efficient? How do you strategize and organize for this new world? What does AI mean to your business? Can the big companies punch above their current market multiples, and can the small companies punch above their weight class? So what are the answers for all this? Just be sure to monitor all these technologies, not just monitor them, engage, start experimenting, get faster, through stuff like low code platform. Remember that product companies with a few services need to become service companies that now offer products. Think platform, think ecosystem, open up to third parties, think modular and agile, harness the data and create these proactive, simple one-to-one engagement tools. And open up, get ready for the citizen developer, work with small empowered teams, learn to work with third parties really well, create entrepreneurship programs, use modular, adaptable, fast middleware, learn what it is now, and create a experimentation. That's important going forward. The faster you can experiment, the more likely you are to tap into the opportunity curve. Reactionary transformation is not good. You don't want external events to force you into doing things that are beyond your control. What you want to do is get experimental and take action now on your terms. Low code should be able to help you mitigate existential risks and deal with things that you don't know. $60 billion firms, we're seeing them today, they're operating as target tiger teams, and they're experimenting in the real world, not in labs. Here's what we think this great acceleration that happened with COVID is going to do. It's going to make all of us prepare for more hacking, more openness and partnerships, more modularity and resilience, a consumer that expects greater convenience and higher speed, be accessible anywhere, and the monitoring of health. People are going to be connecting more into communities through digital tools, more with their friends, workers. Digital services and over-there maintenance are going to become normal. Digital identities are going to grow. So we don't know what we don't know. Be nimble, as a result. Be quick as a result, and be experimental in a result. Make that your mantra. So let's iterate. Thank you.